I'm gonna hit record. All right, I have the problems. I did have those down here with me. So I got those over here. We pretty much did those first like practice problems. We did two of them together, right? So do you guys have any questions about the other two on that sheet before we start talking about some of the other problems?
I have a question from the homework.
Okay, I'm trying to get there. So let's see. So bio one. Come on, bio one. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna. I don't want to close that module yet because the library thing's in there, I think, isn't it? Yeah, I don't want to close that yet. Okay, so which ones? Help me.
Oh no, the genetic questions.
Okay, the ones that say homework.
Yeah, that's the. I have two questions. The first one is from the homework. Homework number one. Number 5.
All right, so homework number one only has 4 questions.
Oh, you did? Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's from the homework number.
Okay, that's okay. Homework number 2. All right, let me go back one and
number 3 and number 5.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I'm just having a little minute here. Okay, this one, right? The spring problems. These problems? Oh, look, yeah, why does it say number one here? I think that's supposed to be A and B. Yeah. So, so that's supposed to be A and B. So the first problem, this is where the mistake is. So I'm actually gonna fix that right now.
That is yeah. So,
it should say a tulip with pink petals is crossed with one with white stripes. So in tulips, pink petals with white stripes are dominant over yellow plain. A tulip with pink petals, so that is crossed there. This should be with one with yellow petals. That was confusing. That was my fault. And I said I would fix that yesterday, and I did not, because not that any of you care, but
of course we care.
I'm not going to talk about my cats. I promise. People always make fun of like faculty members who talk about their cats or their children. Right? No, I tried to pay off my car loan, and all the offspring have pink petals with white stripes. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to say. I tried to pay off my car loan, and what happened was they did it incorrectly. And so they withdrew money from my account for over $4,000 twice. And so since last Wednesday, I've been fighting with the bank to try to get that extra money back. So it's been very, very stressful these last few days. And it actually kind of ruined some of my spring break here.
I would imagine so, but congratulations for paying it off.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Now it's not letting me do this. Just a tulip is crossed with one. All right, I have to change the dates first. It won't let me save it with the incorrect dates. So let me just change the dates real fast. Let's make this due in, what's today, Wednesday? Let's make it due, I don't know, Sunday. Give everybody time to do it. All the people that aren't gonna do it. This available one doesn't matter, I don't think. March 22nd, we'll make it be due, until it can be available until, I don't care, April 2nd. Because there'll be people that won't try to get it finished until way after it's due. Okay, now let me fix this part. So in tulips, pink petals with white stripes are dominant over yellow plain. A tulip with pink petals is crossed with one with yellow petals. So that should say pink petals with white stripes is crossed with one with yellow petals. There. So pink petals, let's type in here with white stripes. There we go. Oh, okay, and this should be like an A and a B. Like these are sub questions underneath that question, because that's a sex-linked trait question, I think. Okay, save. There, now it'll be corrected. All right, so Bo, I still totally get it though. Let's go back and take a look at this problem, right? So this problem is, I just put in extra words because I was trying to get you to think about how we define what is a characteristic, what is a trait, and the challenge does become sometimes there's more words in there than we actually need for the problem. So that was sort of the tricky or complicated part for this problem. So now that I have it corrected, right? So in tulips, pink petals with white stripes are dominant over yellow plain. A tulip with pink petals with white stripes is crossed with a yellow plain, and all the offspring have pink petals with white stripes. So what piece of information does that give you? That sentence.
Are you asking me?
Well, I'm sort of asking rhetorically, or and I think I'm realizing I also put in the words dominant, but what does that tell you? Like, what should if I'm thinking about how do I make this into a Punnett square, one of the first things we need to do is to assign the symbols and decide who the parents are, right? So it's always good, even amongst the given information, if we kind of go through and figure out sort of what's what. So what I would say is pink petals, it says in the problem, pink petals with white stripes is dominant over yellow. So I would probably assign a capital P to pink with white stripes. Right, for my symbol. What symbol should I assign the yellow petals? And you guys can just shout it out. It's fine. There's only 2 or 3 of you here, so.
Little p.
Little p. And in order to see that little p in the recessive, how many little p's do I have to have?
2p.
2 p's, right. And I'm trying to make them look like they're cursive p's, so they look a little different than the capital P, because unfortunately, capital P and lowercase p printed look exactly the same, right? So I'm trying to make them look a little cursive. And I'm going to put next to that yellow plain. I like to do that, especially like it helps me when I'm teaching so that I don't forget, because sometimes when I'm talking and when someone asks me a question, then I forget what was the particular characteristic in this case, because we're not just talking about pea plants and yellow and green and round and wrinkled. But I try to encourage, I do it as an example also to try to model good behavior for students when they're trying to think about genetics problems. If you write down what your symbols are right off the bat, then go back to the reading portion, you can easily set up who the parents are and see what it is that you have to figure out, right? So it says all the offspring have pink petals with white stripes, assign a letter to each allele and draw the Punnett square for the cross described above. Okay, we're gonna do that next. So we've done this first part. We've assigned letters to the alleles. We're gonna draw a Punnett square for that first cross that was discussed in the problem, right? So they said a pink was crossed with a yellow. So you can write out the words first and then put the symbols underneath them. We know that the pink, we know it has at least one capital P, right? So that we can see the pink with white stripes. And we know that yellow is going to be 2 lowercase p's. Now, it says draw the Punnett square to help us with this. And part of the reason for the Punnett square is because that information, the F1 generation, it said they were what? All pink with white stripes. If you can mentally do this, just off the top of your head, that's great. If not, if you need to do 2 test circles or test Punnett squares to figure out what this other letter is going to be, that's perfectly okay as well, right? The only way I can get all the F1 flowers to be pink with white stripes, I have to choose here. I either have capital P, or capital P, lowercase p, because it didn't tell me in the problem that they were true breeders, right? It just said, these are the tulips, we cross them, this is what we get. But what we get tells us, it informs us what the second allele must be for that pink parent. So let's just pretend we can't figure it out mentally. So I would just do this. If the pink parent was capital P, and the yellow parent was lowercase p, I would get all of the flowers are pink with white stripes in the F1 generation. If the parent was capital P, lowercase p, what are my offspring in this case? What color is this one?
Pink with white stripe.
Pink with white stripes. What color is this one?
Yellow.
Yellow. Right? I'm going to get 2 and 2.
2
Right?
and
I'm
2.
going to get 2. And that's not what I got. That's not what the problem told me that happened when I crossed them. So that means that the second allele here has to be the capital P in order for me to get all pink with white stripes. That's why I wrote if here and here. That's the trick of this particular problem. It didn't say at the beginning that the parents were homozygous or the parents were true breeders, but by telling you in the problem, in the words, what the offspring looked like, it gives you a way to figure out that information. Okay, so if the problem had said, I crossed a pink, the problem said the same thing, except when it said that second part of that sentence, if it said the offspring are half pink petals with white stripes and half yellow petals, draw me the Punnett square and tell me the parents, then you would be giving me this Punnett square with these parents, with capital P, lowercase p, with a heterozygous parent. And then it says assign letter. Okay, we did that. In the second part, if these tulips are allowed to self-fertilize, what do you predict the offspring will look like? Complete a second Punnett square to support your answer. So we know this is the choice. So now we are going to, if I keep my head further back here, it'll focus more on the board there because the camera looks for a face, right? So I'll keep my head back here, I know it looks weird. So we know that this is going to be our parents for the F2 generation. We're going to take one of these, which is an F1, and another one, which is another F1, and we're going to allow them to self-fertilize to get our F2. Following Mendel's rules, we should get 3 pink with white stripes and 1 yellow, right? We should get 3/4 to 1/4.
Yeah.
So I'll just complete that. I think it's best if, as a student, I think it's best to always, just like a math problem, because these are more like math problems than word problems, right? I think it's best if you write out the parents. So I would do this if it was me. Right? I would write F1 crossed with F1, so there would be no confusion. And then I would draw that Punnett square. Fill it out. And then over here, tell me you have 3/4 pink with white stripes and 1/4 yellow. So that would be the complete answer for number 1. And I can tell you right now, usually I would award 5 points for the short answers. And each part of the problem is worth, like, so for example, this would be worth a point. This would be worth a point. Telling me the parents would be worth a point. Figuring this out would be worth a point. So each one of them sort of has an internal rubric for all of the steps that you have to complete counting, so that if you get most of it, right? Like if you write 3/4 and 1/4, but don't tell me the colors, right? Then that's a deduction, a small deduction. If you give me all the information, so more information is always better than less.
The one place where I struggle is that top corner where you have male and female. Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter in plants,
Okay.
right? It never matters in plants because they can self-fertilize. Mendel did reciprocal crosses, which means he took purple pollen from a true breeder. So pollen would be the male part of the plant, and fertilized white flowers after he had removed the white pollen from the white flowers. And then he did the reciprocal cross, meaning he took white pollen and fertilized purple ovules. And what he found out was it didn't matter which direction, where the sperm came from and where the eggs came from. Every time you cross true breeding purple with true breeding white, you got purple flowers. It matters only in sex-linked problems or sex characteristic problems that are sex characteristics, which in our case, I think there's one example. And well, there was one example in the problem set, and there's one example here. We've got chickens, that problem number 4 with those 2 parts. We have chickens, and specifically it says in chickens, a multi-feathered tail is present in some birds. It is caused by a recessive allele on the X chromosome. So it is identified for you. The other mystery for figuring out if something is a sex-linked trait depends on if you're given a pedigree, for example, and you're seeing that the trait appears more frequently in males than females. A characteristic that is a recessive or a dominant, well, recessive, I should say, and it is sex-linked, you're going to see it more frequently in males than females. And yeah, that's good. If it's a sex determined characteristic like hairy ears in males, that's different. That's actually a Y-linked trait. Then you would see it only in males. So there are variations of this. You can come to genetics, learn more about it. For our purposes, sex-linked is as far as we go.
Can you explain number 3?
Sure. With the incomplete dominance with the frogs?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna give me a minute here to erase. Okay. So let me start by saying, and I'm sure the 2 of you already looked, and I'm sure that most people who will be watching this video later today have already read the chapter and looked at what it means for something to be incompletely dominant. And I think I mentioned it on Monday as well. So when something is incompletely dominant, meaning a characteristic or a trait is incompletely dominant, what that means is the dominant allele does not completely mask the recessive allele. So in the case of 2 true breeding parents, rather than the F1 all showing the dominant phenotype, the F1 generation shows an in-between phenotype. And I believe in this case, it's spotting, right? So a frog with dark green spots is mated with a frog with plain skin. Their offspring have a few light green spots, and I specifically put on there an in-between phenotype. Now I have to get some new glasses because you see how these are crooked. Okay, whatever. That's your first clue that you have an in-between phenotype is your first clue that you have a incompletely dominant trait. So let's start with assigning letters, and then we'll talk more about the problem, right? So assign letters for this trait and show how it's transmitted from the parents to the offspring. That means show me the Punnett square. What genotypes of frog should I cross if I want offspring with all three phenotypes in one generation? Okay, let's leave that to the side. Let's start at the beginning, right? A frog with dark green spots is mated with a frog with plain skin. Their offspring have a few light green spots. Okay, so what do you want to use? S, D for dark green, G for green, your choice.
T.
G? Okay. So then I'm going to say green, capital G, whatever. This gives me dark green spots. And I mated that with a frog with plain skin. So little g is going to be plain skin. Now, why did I choose to make the dark green spot capital G and the plain skin the two little g's and not the opposite? Because it told me that when I cross these two frogs, I get this in-between phenotype with spots, right? That tells me that the spotting has to be trying to cover up the plain skin, and it's not working. It's not completely dominant, or all the babies would have dark green spots. So what that tells me is if the spots are light green and I have an in-between phenotype, the in-between phenotype is that genotype, capital G and lowercase g. So then my original parents would have been this. Right, and they're all light green spots. Great. Now, the harder part of the problem is the second part, right? What genotypes of frogs should I cross if I want offspring with all three phenotypes in one generation? Well, clearly it's not this one, right? Because that only gives me the light green spots. So not those parents. I would say to you, you would have to do this most likely by trial and error. So not those. Obviously, if I had lowercase g, if I did these parents, I wouldn't get any spots. They would just all be plain skin, so it's not them. If I did dark green spots with dark green spots, if I did this, I would only get all of them having dark green spots, so it's not that. So it has to be something with the heterozygotes, right? I have to have at least one capital G. And if I'm going to, well, we'll just try it. So if I cross capital G, lowercase g with two little g's, what would I get? I only get spots and plain, so it's not that one. So what combination do I have left for parents?
Big, oh wait, no. Big G.
I only have one left.
Yeah, big G, little g crossed with big G, little g.
Correct. I cross the two heterozygotes. I get dark green spots, 2 with light green spots, and 1 plain. And then I would expect you to have written that out. 1 with dark spots, 2 with light, and 1 plain. And circled it, or somehow indicated that that was your choice, right? You would not need to show me all of these other trials that you did, but you could, you could, like, I wouldn't probably be awarding points for those, but if I saw them on your paper, obviously I wouldn't be marking them wrong or anything, as long as you indicated which one gave you the correct answer. This is super common in plants, super common.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It just keep layers of complexity, just keep getting added, can just be keep adding on and on and on to this, right? You can actually have like a case where there's multiple alleles and they're incompletely dominant. You can have a case where there are sex-linked traits that are incompletely dominant, or sex-linked traits where there's multiple alleles. So all of these things can happen in combination, like in real life. We're giving you, well, these are on this paper are all pretend examples. We're trying to just give you some examples, some word problems to practice making Punnett squares, right? And trying to keep it as simple as possible. Monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross, incomplete, multiple alleles, and codominance. That's it. And drawing pedigrees, because students usually respond to that because it's something you can think about in your own family, or if you have dogs or cats or animals that you breed or know of people who breed, it's easy to think, oh, well, that's where that particular trait came from.
Can I ask one more question?
You can ask as many questions as you want.
Number 5.
Number 5, okay. And hopefully, people will be savvy enough to watch the video today before they try to turn in their homework problems, these problems, so that they will get most of the points, right? Because since we've just gone through them, now you already actually know how to do them exactly. All right, number 5. Number 5 is a combination of multiple alleles, right? And blood types. Right, so it's a kind of a double problem. And I just changed it to rabbits instead of people, right? And because it's Easter time, right? Pink, blue, and yellow bunnies, blood types. So pink and blue are codominant and yellow is recessive. If a female rabbit with blood type P, which is pink, and a male rabbit with blood type B, which is blue, have a baby bunny with blood type YY. What are the genotypes of these rabbits? What are the chances of another baby bunny with blood type Y? Okay. So it states right at the beginning, rabbits have multiple blood types. Okay, so that means multiple alleles. Right, and I'm perfectly comfortable with you just using the symbols that I give you there, P for pink, B for blue, and YY for yellow. There's 3 blood colors. If you want to do it like the problems in your book and do this, put I with a superscript of P, I with a superscript of B, right? And 2 Ys or what, I don't care, as long as you identify what the symbols are. I really don't care. And set it up however you want. What's important is this part, right? So this is pink. Pink and blue are both capital because it tells they are codominant, right? Pink and blue are codominant and yellow is recessive. So that's why they both get a capital. Yellow is recessive, so it's 2 little y's in order to get yellow. All right, if a female rabbit with blood type P, so we'll designate her female, blood type P, we don't know her other allele, is mated with a male rabbit with blood type B, we don't know his other allele, and they have a baby bunny with blood type Y. What is the genotypes of the parents, right? Blah, blah, blah. What are the genotypes of these 3 rabbits? How can they ever have a baby with a baby bunny with blood type Y?
They have to have a Y on both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah, exactly. They have to be carrying a Y. That has to be their blood type in order for that to work. So then you would draw the Punnett square. And this time, Stephanie, it would be good if you put that was the mom and that was the dad bunny, but it's not that crucial. There's your baby bunny with yellow. So it asks, what are the genotypes of these 3 rabbits? So the mom rabbit, mom or the female rabbit would have to be big P, lowercase y. The dad bunny or the male bunny would have to be big P, lowercase y. And the bunny would be 2 little y's. There you go. What are the chances they will have another baby bunny with blood type Y? How much out of the square? What are the chances they'll get another YY?
3/4.
Not 3/4,
1/4.
1/4. Every time, I mean, bunnies, they lay litters, so they have more than one rabbit in the litter, but every time, this is a single fertilization. This is if the egg that had big P, little y, mated with the sperm that had big B, little y. These are all the possibilities you can get. And every time a sperm fuses with an egg, you get all 4 possibilities. So the chances they're going to have another baby bunny that is YY is a 1/4 chance. Yeah. Done.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because there's only one YY can be from there. That's why
Yes.
it's gonna be the
Yeah.
1/4.
Yes, they come, yeah.
Mhm.
Only 1 out of the 4 times would they get YY.
Mhm.
And they would have to probably have, 40 baby bunnies to get close to that fraction, right? The more litters they have, the more likely those numbers are going to get closer to the predicted numbers, right? So try to remember that a Punnett square is just, we're predicting the probability. It's not going to be perfect. And of course, when you're talking about humans, this would be a single baby, right? Each time is a new Punnett square for each child. And the previous Punnett square has no bearing on what's going to happen the next time. It's not like, oh, if you've already had a child or a bunny with YY, you can't have another bunny with YY. Each time it's the same Punnett square. Each time it's a 1/4 chance. So in the case when you have a genetic condition, like I'll try to do one, Tay-Sachs, sickle trait, cystic fibrosis. We'll do sickle trait because that's probably the most common, one of the most common traits, and it is a recessive trait. And they talk about it a lot in your textbook because it's isolated geographically and it's related evolutionarily to places where there's malaria. Because if you're heterozygous, you're less likely to actually get the most severe forms of malaria. So the trait is kept in the population and passed on because it has a selective advantage. But if it ends up in homozygous recessive condition, in a place where there's a country that's underdeveloped that doesn't have enough medical treatment, those children will probably die or may die. Not from malaria, but from the sickle trait. So let's just do capital H, right, as normal hemoglobin and lowercase h. That's going to give you a sickle shaped red blood cell because it's a mutated hemoglobin. That's why we choose H. So if we have parents, right, that are heterozygous, or sickle trait, the majority of their offspring, or most frequently, 1/2 of the time, they're going to produce children that are heterozygous. And remember, this is an advantage. They may have some of the adverse effects of having the sickle trait, but it prevents them from getting the worst forms of malaria. Now, that's only advantageous if they're living where there are the worst forms of malaria. So think about the globe and places where there's a lot of mosquitoes, because that's how malaria is transmitted. So if you think about equatorial Africa through Asia and Southeast Asia and around through South America, right? Those are the places where there are the most mosquitoes and the most transmission of malaria. Those people native to those places are going to more likely be heterozygous. And again, it's an advantage when they're living there. But if they're living someplace where there isn't as much malaria, this will impact a person's ability to transport oxygen. So it will have an impact on their respiratory system, their spleen, their liver, various parts of their body. Now, they're only 1/4 of the time they're producing children that have double sickle trait, which again would maybe cause them to be severely handicapped or die in those underdeveloped countries. If they're living in a developed country or first world or second world country, they're going to get treatments and they're going to survive. And they're 1/4 producing a person that doesn't carry the trait, right? So it would be advantageous for this person to live where there's no malaria. But if they're living where there's malaria, they're going to die from the malaria. So that's why there's this selective pressure, this evolutionary pressure to keep this allele in the population, even though in the homozygous condition, it's very bad for the individual. But it stays in the population because it's advantageous overall. So that's a longer answer than what you wanted for that. But every time these two people have a baby, they have a 1/4 chance of having a child with completely normal hemoglobin. They have a 2/4 or 1/2 chance of producing a heterozygous child that will have some sickle cell red blood cells and some normal, and they have a 1/4 chance of producing a full-blown sickle cell offspring. And then again, that's every time they have a baby. And just because they have one of these that's heterozygous doesn't mean the next time they have a child, they still have a 1/4, 2/4, 1/4 chance of the same condition. I think people don't often understand that. They think, oh, well, I've already had this baby. So that's why you would speak to a genetics counselor. I've already had this one. So my chances of having that again are next to nothing, right? That's not how it works. Every time it's a 1/4 chance. All right. Other questions, comments, concerns, worries?
I have a few irrelevant questions.
Okay, just give me like 1 second because I want to check. So I extended the homework out to March 28th. These practice problems, I don't know, you think people will do them? I'll put those out to next week as well. Because we went through them in the video, I feel like people could do them. Let's put those out to next Wednesday. I don't really need to change when they're available, but I'll just put it last week. And then, did I put Wednesday? 31st, okay. That's for everybody who's still, sort of recouping from spring break there. Okay, so we'll have those 4 short practice problems, which again, we went through in the videos last week, actually on Monday, and today we went through almost all of them. And then the spring genetics problems, we just did 3 out of the 5 of those. So people should at least be able to do those, I would think. This is due today, right? Yeah, I might give you, I think I put 2 attempts on that, right? I'm going to change that and give you a second attempt. I might just change the due date to tomorrow. Let's just do that. I have to grade it anyway, so I'll put 2 attempts in there. So people who've already done it, if you want to go back and try again based on what you've seen today in the videos, that's fine. So I'll lighten that a little bit. Okay. Sorry, Stephanie, for that. Go ahead and ask me your question.
That's fine. That was what one of my questions is about. What's the, this is a silly question. Once I open that up, that quiz,
Yes.
I want to kind of be like, you're going to give me the questions, then I'm going to go on my paper and then I'll upload something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there are 5 questions sitting there, and it says very specifically, this is the only way I can do this in Canvas. So there are 5 questions. I'm only going to grade 3 of them, right? So there are 5 questions that will show up. You get to choose which 3 you want to answer. Answer them. I would write them on a piece of paper, draw out your Punnett squares, whatever you're going to do, and then either photograph them and upload the photograph, because I've allowed those types of uploads, or scan it would be even better because I can write on those, like I can type on those as well. And then you're going to have to upload that. Yes, somehow you're going to have to attach a document that has your answers. Sometimes people just photograph like a notebook page that they have their problems on, and it allows for multiple uploads. So if you can't fit everything on one page, one piece of paper, that's okay too. Yeah, does that answer your question?
That's it. Perfect. Thank you. And then this is going to be an annoying question for you. I know you don't want me to ask this, but I have to. When should we expect the answer or the grades for the chapter 12 and 13 test?
Oh, right. So I have to go in and grade that last question. Yeah, I'll probably be doing that today. I had planned to do it yesterday, but then with all that bank issue stuff, I spent a lot of time. And you wouldn't want me to grade it when I was upset and angry.
No, definitely.
People stealing money from my checking account. So anyway, so I didn't yesterday, but I had good intentions, because actually a student who's a remote student actually came to my office hour yesterday and asked if we could go through the test. And I said, not while students are still taking it. And then that reminded me that I had to go in and answer that, manually grade that last question. And then I got sidetracked with all the banking stuff. So I'll go in and try to do those today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anything else? Let's see. Yes, no, maybe so. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.